This is the new SwitchBot K10 Pro. It's the newest tiny vacuum from SwitchBot, and from a power standpoint and a specification standpoint, it looks like this thing's not gonna match up. However, there are some little reasons that you might want to look at a smaller vacuum like this Pro. And SwitchBot have packed in some better specs from their previous K10 Plus, so things are getting closer, and there are some interesting design choices in this that are different from the rest of the industry. So today I'm going to take you through an unboxing, and then I'm going to compare this to that previous unit. Then I'll make sure you know what it's like living with SwitchBot's K10 Pro, and finally I'll show you how to use it and how to get the most out of it with some automations and integrations that help you do more with SwitchBot's new little fella. Let's give her. The box is deep. There's a lot in it. So after you've torn everything out of the box, lifted the lid to the base station, and you pulled everything out of there, you're gonna find a lot of accessories as well as a lot of extra accessories. Now, of course, we find 2 side sweepers, 2 vacuum bags, and 2 filters. And just to break the pattern here, 30 mop wipes in a bag. There's also a mop connection piece that you'll find on the underside of the lid of the base station. And in that base station is where you will find one of the vacuum bags. But you also get this little cutting tool that helps you to get things out of the roller brush if you ever get hair or carpet threads tangled in there. Now, of course, you get the base station itself, and this is the same base station that SwitchBot has been using with all of their robot vacuums. It's tiny, and when you compare it to other base stations, it really shows just how little of a footprint this unit will take up. There are some charging pads that keep the 3200 milliamp hour battery on the robot vacuum charged as the unit sits there. You'll see a second connection piece that is used to suction the material out of your robot vacuum. That's a very loud process on these units, but this one isn't crazy loud, and SwitchBot gives you some extra settings inside of their app to let you control how that goes and how effective that is. The base station houses a 4-liter vacuum bag. That should give you around 90 days. The robot vacuum itself contains everything you would expect. It has a new and upgraded roller brush that I like a lot better than the previous K10 Plus version. It's completely rubberized. I think you're gonna get a lot less tangles here, and I haven't seen any yet. I don't know if that cutting tool we have is gonna be necessary anymore with that versus this old one. Of course, this is LiDAR SLAM navigation. That's pretty good to have on a unit at this price point, but SwitchBot has also included a side sensor. They call this the PSD lateral edge sensor. It's there to help them scan and navigate obstacles beside the unit, and I did notice that this one was doing better at that. They also have cliff sensors on the bottom, and we'll discuss that sensor because it was both a little bit of a problem, but it fixed some other problems with the K10 Plus. Now, the Pro has a lower suction power than you might expect. Its top power, called max, has just 3000 pascals. The wild thing is it goes down to 600 pascals, but the roller brush is actually helping out in this case, and you'll see the performance later in the video. Now, as I said, it contains everything else that you would expect, including, good sized wheels, a good build quality, and you can remove components like this little storage bin where you can change out your filter. You can also change the little sweeper arms, which I think you'll have to do fairly regularly with this unit, and eventually the roller brush will have to be replaced. These are normal things on robot vacuums, so the fact that this is a really small unit isn't really affecting the design. But it does affect how the unit cleans, and things like battery life. This is a different balance between those things, and it's what I'm about to show you as we compare this to the previous K10 Plus, as well as some other units you might have seen in the industry. I had previously reviewed the K10 Plus and I did have the S10. So I've seen generally how SwitchBot handles vacuuming, as well as how this unit mops. However, there are some new things on the Pro that you might not expect. Now, when we talk about getting into the corners of your home, this has been improved through, first of all, the design of the unit, but also just some of the minor upgrades that SwitchBot has made as it relates to navigation and with their suction power. The extra position sensitive detector, or PSD on the side, is helping them get closer into the corners and along your walls. With the small footprint and the little sweeper brush getting in deeper into your corner because of the smaller radius of this unit, it's gonna get in there further. So you can see the performance. It's not perfect, but when you consider that we end up spending a lot more money on units like the S8 Max V Ultra from Roborock, so we get their little arm that goes into the corner, it's interesting to see a different design drive a similar result. There are minor improvements on this versus the K10 Plus. That unit had 2,500 pascals of suction pressure, and it had this rubber brush with the hairbrush component on it. This is an all rubber brush, and I'm definitely liking this design better for pulling things along and even pushing into carpet a little better. Those extra sensors are obviously helping with navigation, but the other thing that I found that is greatly improved over the K10 Plus is the situation around stairs. I was really worried about that previous unit falling downstairs, but I have no concerns here. And it seems that SwitchBot have done the work necessary to make this a good navigating unit. There's a few minor improvements that I've seen on this unit versus that previous unit that not a lot of people are gonna pick up on. So first and foremost, this compartment back here. There's better closure, I guess, is the word I would use. This I saw kind of opening up when this compartment got too full, and I didn't find the suction was strong enough from the base station to pull in the debris through that connection point. This was on the previous model, and here the improvements SwitchBot has made in the app and the improvements they've made just from a suction power or just how they're doing it is better, so I haven't seen that problem. There is a slight upgrade in things like the filter inside of this component, and even the vacuum bag, that whole situation feels like it's more sorted out. So there are these little improvements, but there's a couple of things that you're probably wondering about that haven't been improved. And I think the biggest thing to note is the mopping situation. And I'm not sure we can call it mopping really. The little attachment that goes on here and the little wipes, and that's what I'd call them. They're wet wipes. And that's not driving a lot of cleanliness. It does go along and you'll find some dirt on those things. You'll find that it is getting a little bit, but it's not a comprehensive clean, and that is the same as the previous model. So those kinds of things are really very similar between the two units, and when you compare this to other units, it's definitely not a mop like we see on larger devices and some of the higher price devices. There are some other minor things you're gonna see in the living with section, but those are the big improvements we saw on the Pro. Otherwise, it's the small footprint that drives what this can do. And I think it's important to understand why the size matters and how SwitchBot's changed the design up. So let's go through that. Generally, I'm a big proponent of the larger robot vacuums, but as I worked through some of the literature and I worked with this unit, I started to see how a smaller design could potentially perform better in the long run. I think some other companies are gonna probably come out with smaller models in the coming years just to try and catch up to some of SwitchBot's thinking here. Now, not only is this a shorter unit than many others on the market, which means it can get under most furniture easily. I recently reviewed the Narwhal Frio Z Ultra, and it barely fits under my couch, which is kind of a high one. The previous units that I had tested from Roborock and them did sometimes struggle under the couch because they would touch the top, and that would sometimes cause them to stop. So having that smaller footprint is a big deal. It's also a big deal around your kitchen table and other busy places like that. One of the most interesting moments for me was when I watched this go around the stools that I have in my kitchen. This little guy managed to sneak in between them, and somehow it managed to get out too. So there are benefits to just getting around your home because, again, Narwhal and the larger units could not get in between those stools. So I would have to move them every once in a while. This design is also letting them get away with a smaller battery and then still getting a decent run time. It's not that this is a big difference, but when you couple it with lower suction values that can be used because of the roller brush and the smaller surface area, it's a reasonable replacement for those larger units with higher suction values. Its performance isn't better or worse based on that suction power in most hardwood situations. Could be a little different on carpets, but I think a lot of people will initially read the suction value and discount something like this because of what the rest of the industry is doing. It does have some troubles cleaning up big messes, for some other reasons though. So let's get into what it's like living with the SwitchBot K10 Pro. And we'll start with setting it up, getting it working in your home, and then you're gonna see how it performs and what you'll experience having one of these little guys in your home. I think I came into this with an expectation that it would be nearly perfect, and that's because I've been working with some of the higher priced units. But I've taken some time. I had to reset my mind to working with a unit that is less than half the price of most of the flagship robots out there today. When I reset my mind to that and I consider what it's like to live with this, it's a pretty good experience for the price. Almost everything out of the box is set up and ready for you, and you can be up and running by pushing the little side sweeper onto the unit, then you plug it into the wall. And it was nice to see that SwitchBot gave us a little cable wrap on this unit because lots of the other ones, they're missing that. And I think these things, they're gonna stick out. So when there's an ugly cable around, I don't like that. Now, from that point on, the setup process is quite simple. Now, you have to just make sure that even though we're really close to the plug here, you don't push right up against that, because when you do lift this lid, it kind of pulls the plug out. That's maybe the only little design detail that I didn't like about this. Now, when you push this onto there, tells you it's charging. Let's get our K10 Plus set up. Now I have it plugged in, I have it charging, I have it waiting for me, and I'm in the SwitchBot app, which is available on iOS or Android, of course. And I'm just gonna hit the plus and hit add device. Now you don't actually need a hub for this robot vacuum. So that's one of the nice things about these Wi-Fi products from SwitchBot. So now I just went down the list and I'm selecting Mini Robot Vacuum K10 Plus. And of course, they're gonna tell you what to do here. Press and hold the clean button for 5 to 10 seconds until you hear a voice prompt. Now that I've done that, press and hold the home and clean button at the same time. So you gotta dual press those buttons for 3 to 5 seconds. When you hear the prompt, Wi-Fi has been reset. Let's go to the next step. Now it's gonna search for the device, and if you can't find it, make sure you're nice and close to the phone here just for this part of the setup process. Okay, so we found the K10 Plus. We hit configure network, select 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi since the 5 gigahertz is not supported. So you're going to need to find that in your home. So I've actually just typed in my credentials. I haven't allowed them to use their little selector tool, and I'm going to hit next. And now what it's going to try to do is use the credentials I gave it, and it's going to connect to the Wi-Fi network that this model is actually putting out. So it's putting out its own little Wi-Fi signal, and now we're going to try and connect to our Wi-Fi. I do have confirmation that it's joined my network. And there we go. So that little trick did work. It just connected to my 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network just by typing in the credentials, even though it was saying, hey, that's a 5 gigahertz network. Okay, it's all connected to my network. Now we're gonna start using it. I can name the robot vacuum, and I can pick a room here inside of SwitchBot's app. I haven't been using that feature. You don't necessarily need to do that. Now we have a first-time user guide. They're gonna tell you some basic things to do generally with this robot vacuum. So make sure you're in a good spot for the Wi-Fi signal, make sure your charging base is connected to power, and make sure there's no obstacles near the charging base, so give it some space. Now, they want you to organize your home environment, clear the ground, so it kind of learns where things are going to normally be. Open the doors of all your rooms, and it's going to create a map. So now we're going to hit next and let your robot start off charging from that auto empty station, and that's where it's going to return to. Okay, it's going to do a mapping process and automatically divide rooms. We can set a do not disturb time with this unit, and you probably want to do this. No voice prompts, darken all the lights on it, never start cleaning. And I think that's probably the most important one. If it doesn't finish a job, and you can see the time frame here, 10 to 8 in the morning, well, it's not going to resume that cleaning. You can change that later in the settings if you don't have something there. But now we're actually set up. So we've got to map and clean our home. So go prep your home and then come back and we'll do this map and clean together. Now, it's been charged up for a while. This thing charges pretty quickly, but let's get it mapping and cleaning. Every few meters, just spins around, takes another look. It's using the onboard laser navigation. It's called LDS, and it's just checking out the space, making sure it's mapping everything. And you'll see every time it does this, basically pops in another element of the map. It has banged into a couple of things as it's building this map. So it's not terrible, but you know, if you're really sensitive about that thing, you might not like that. And this is normal. Like, that's a stool. That's very hard for these robot vacuums with the little lifted lip on those. That's pretty tough for them to not run into initially, but did run into the garbage, ran in a little bit right there on my oven, and yeah, it's gonna hit a few things like this as it does this full map. So we're done the map, okay? And yes, that's a mirror. Now, the reason I'm talking about the mirror is I've noticed that this type of laser, this type of navigation, it kind of sees through the mirror. So it might sit there against those kinds of spaces. That's what it did. It went back, forward, a bunch of times, and then it mapped it like it was an extra room. Now we have another one of those down here. So you see that little white line? That is right here. So it thinks there's a room behind that. This doesn't really matter. It's not a big deal. The unit is cleaning. It's gonna just go about its business now. It's doing edge cleaning, and I like that it does the edge cleaning first. So that's not a big problem with the mirrors. Just understand it might do that. There are a number of ways to send out the robot vacuum. So this is the simplest. This will just start a full home clean. And of course, you can stop it at any time. Now you can tap in to go you can hit clean, you can say finish your current task, and you can send it back to recharge. But if you go into the app, there's quite a few options for you to clean. And there's just a simple clean button right here. If you want to adjust the suction power, you can do this while it's cleaning, but you can also do it before you send it out. Now, if you don't want to do like your whole home, well, you can choose by room. So at this point, let's say I wanted to do this room, and then I can hit clean again. I can also set how many times I would like it to clean, okay? So it's 1 or 2 times right now, and I can even set a cleaning plan. So this allows you to go through the different names of your rooms, and I'll show you how to adjust your map later, but you can change the suction power per room, and you can say how many times you want it to clean certain rooms. So you can make quite a customized plan here for your whole home. Once you've set the plan, you just want to hit use cleaning plan, and now it will choose to do all of those things. So you can hit save, and this will send it to all those different rooms with those different settings on them. And now you can see that visually in the app. If you want to just return to simply doing a single room, just turn that off, hit save. So that's a good little feature that lets you pick 1 or more rooms to do and then to make some adjustments. Now, if you just like to do an area, that's this button up at the top. And I've already kind of created a little area, but you can adjust that area, or you can add an additional one. And then once you've added your area, you can adjust down like that. And now you can hit effective immediately. That saves. And now we have 2 areas. And there they go. They're going out to clean the areas. So those are all the different ways you can send it out in your home. So here we are. We're doing our room. There it goes. And let's see if it goes over to the other area. This will be interesting. I've actually never tried it to get it to do 2 separate areas. What I do like is it's doing a back and forth pattern here, and that's after it went around the edge of the area that I set. Now it's going to find the second area. So it is going to do this. Now let's see what it does around the balloon. Oh, pushes it. That's kind of funny. Now here's some of the power of this unit, right? It's getting right into every little nook. And this is some of the improved navigation. So it's just getting closer than the previous unit from SwitchBot. Barely touching a leg there. That was good movement. And it's not right up against it, but that's really close. There it goes now. Whoa! Uh-oh! It's got to react now. It's got a problem. That's gonna pop for sure.
Please help.
So you will get requests to please help. And it shows up in the app just the same. It says, please help. And you know, this is a pretty tough object. I really don't blame SwitchBot for this. This is almost impossible for any robot vacuum to avoid when you have the string there. I imagine it would be fine avoiding this, but not the string. So you do see there in the app, it says, hey, I'm stuck. You do get a little notification as well. So this helps you to keep up with what the unit's doing. If I'm done, I can also send it back to recharge. And there we go. And we still have what the unit managed to do here in the app. in general, I like how it's moving through obstacles like this. It's a pretty rugged little unit, and I didn't expect with a smaller size to see it go over things like that and just deal with all the obstacles around here. It went around this table really nicely, just in and out of these little legs right here. And it's in general just doing a back and forth pattern, but making sure that it goes around these with a proper navigation. And yeah, to get over things like that, lots of robot vacuums fail right there. Now I've just put something in front of our guy here. So this is all expected, but this fella is not. I like how it went around both of those legs fully. Now it's going back. Here it comes. How does it deal with this? It knew it was there. So that's good reaction, because this object obviously shouldn't be here in the road. So you have some dynamic understanding of the environment through the LDS, or the LiDAR SLAM system. That's very good. That was a great test. So I just put this down in front of it. It banged into it, but about that hard. So it's not doing any real damage. Now let's see how it deals with the whole situation. I'm all right with this. Let's see. That's the big part. So it's definitely not sensing that it's running into the cable. And I have seen this unit suck up the cable a couple of times. It's doing very careful movement around it, so it's not like it's going to instantly run over everything, but you will see it's just going to keep moving this around. And this is the state I've found it in a few times, where it does pull something along with it, especially smaller cable. Overall, I can't really complain about what it did with that cable. Yes, it ran into it. Yes, it pushed it around, but it did not suck it up. It did manage to go over it a few times, and it's continued to work. So although it will suck up smaller cables, this situation is not the worst. He's still trapped, but he's trying. This is a lot of resilience there. He got out of it. That's excellent. You know, that's what you want to have happen. So I was laying right there, and there's still a little black dot. Oh, it just got removed. And so actually that's what I wanted to point out. It is dynamically figuring out whether objects are in the way. So I was laying there, it marked me on the map as being in the way, and then it couldn't get past me because I had that no-go zone in a wall. And yet it still tried to get past there again. And it now is past there, and it's removed where I was. So that's really good from a dynamic perspective. As things change in your home, the Pro is reacting. If you ever need to edit the map, or you want to use this on a second floor, you've got to head into here. So we can rotate the map, okay, once it's done cleaning, of course. And then we can merge or split rooms, or redivide rooms if we have merged them before. So for example, let's say I wanted to merge these two, I would just tap them and then I hit merge. If I want to split a specific room, now I hit room 4, I hit split, and then I just have to put the line across where I'd like to split that room. If I'd like to generate additional maps, I can hit create, and this is where you would take the unit up your stairs or down your stairs, and then you'll be able to create additional maps. Unfortunately, it seems to have created a number of maps as we've been going. I think it's just the different versions. So if you don't like that, you can hit delete and you can favorite certain maps. So this one's in use. I could use this one instead if I like that one better. But I'm just gonna favorite this map, hit use. So now it's one of my favorite maps. Obviously that would let me get rid of the big long list, maybe just have a couple here, my main map, and then my upstairs or my downstairs. So that's pretty good if you want to manage multiple floors with this unit. The other thing you might want to do is you may want to schedule this unit. So here's a schedule. It's a pretty simple tool. I'm going to hit the plus, and now I can pick the time of day. So let's start it right at 10 a.m. So you're going to choose next your vacuuming method. You're probably only going to choose vacuum mode in that case. How often do you want this to repeat? So do you want to do it every a certain weekday? Go ahead, hit that. It's weekdays, Monday to Friday. You can pick a customized version of that. So if you only want to do this clean on Wednesdays, there you go. Hit confirm, and now you can say how much of your home you want to clean. So there's areas, and then there's specific rooms, and you can even do in order of a specific selection, or just have it do it automatically. You can set the cleaning power, and of course you can say if you wanted to clean something a couple of times. Once you have your schedule right, you just hit confirm, and now the unit's just gonna run, and I think most people are going to be using the unit this way in their lives. So this mat right here, it's fairly thin. The robot vacuum, it performs perfectly with that. So you don't have anything to worry about with mats in general. It's done amazing with this carpet. It's been better than perfect with that. But just this one, it's really struggled. And I'll tell you, the worst thing that's happened, I've kind of closed off. So yes, that's on purpose. So the reason I put that box there and those shoes is because there are some fall sensors. And the fall sensors, when they're coming onto that black mat, sometimes think that it's falling off a cliff. So what happens in that case is the robot vacuum can think it's stuck. So what was happening is as the robot vacuum was coming onto the black mat, it was thinking that it was falling downstairs, because that's what in a lot of cases, what fall sensors do on robot vacuums. They see that change in color, it's kind of a darker color, and so it thinks it's falling downstairs. Now I had to walk through this with the folks at SwitchBot. That is their belief to what's going on with that very dark mat. But I haven't had this with that other dark mat. I haven't had this anywhere else in my home where there's a problem. So just if you have something that's very dark, very difficult for the robot vacuum to navigate onto, you might run into something like this with the K10 Plus. This is my favorite test because I get to eat some of the cereal. Let's find out. So there's a bit around for sure. Like, it did not get it. I'm gonna have to send it back out a second time. But there's at least about 70–80% of it in a single sweep. It's just this little area I did. Let's see. So it got about 90%. Honestly, the problem I think that it's having is not that it can't run over all that stuff, pick most of it up with the suction power. It's actually that the little sweeper arm is going so quick that it is kicking some of it out of the area before it gets to that. So pretty good, 90%-ish, but not perfect. Let's see what we get. That was pretty good. This is the most it's left in the corner after 3 different attempts. That is impressive. It was right into the corner, and just about everything else has been picked up. There's a few little pieces around, but that is quite the capability of getting into corners. A lot of the times when the Pro comes back and it docks on the station, it's gonna do an automatic suction of the debris it's picked up into the base station, but it does hold quite a bit inside of the unit. So there's a little compartment in here and it'll hold that. Now, if you want to trigger the empty dust feature, it's right here, and you can just hit that. Now you might think that went on for a long time, and it did. So that's actually gonna help to keep this from getting clogged up with the debris. Same with the actual unit. And there are adjustable settings for how long you want that to happen for inside of the application. There's also a setting for how often you want it to do that. So I like that little adjustable feature here for the dust collection. We're sitting here, well, I'm sitting here on my couch, but underneath my couch now is a rug. And you know, when I put on the mops or the mopping pads, we don't want the unit to go on here. Now, there are certain units out there today that will know that there's a carpet here, and it'll even mark it on the app. But in this case, we have to set what are called no-go zones. You can set a couple of different types of no-go zones, and this is actually really helpful. So the blue kind is only if you're wanting it to not mop. So what I've done is I've set a blue no-go zone here. So when I put on the mopping attachment, it's not going to do this area. It does take a couple of tries to get that area quite right. And you will have to kind of watch your unit go around, watch its path, and then make that box, and you can edit it anytime. Now the red version, you can see a red one right here and up here. Those are no-go zones for vacuuming and mopping. So that can help you, in my case, that is based on the mirror, and this one is actually outside. So I didn't want it to try. I didn't want it to sit there and maybe try someday. Not that it is. The last thing you can do is create virtual walls. So this should stop the unit from trying to cross boundaries. So that can be a very useful thing to do at the top of stairs, for example. I also did it here in front of my mirror, so it would just stop trying ever to go through that area. Now, one funny thing about this unit is it was able to climb through that spot. So just a little aside for you, I have that little ridge there, but it just went right over it. So I can actually get over some stuff. But what if you want to mop? Well, that's a bit of a process. So let me show you how that works. I've taken the unit off. I grabbed my little attachment here for mopping, and there is a nice little diagram for you. They do tell you, set those no-go zones, so good thing I've done that. To get this on,
Entering mopping mode.
you heard that, and it just clicks in. It's very, very simple. There's two little notches right here, and there's two little notches in this bad boy. So we just put it in,
Entering mopping mode.
clip it in, and there you go. The mopping attachment is on.
Or uneven. Please restart me on an even surface.
You'll be okay. Now, you gotta get your mopping pads out, but you're supposed to do this part of it before you attach that, okay? So what we have is, essentially a wet wipe, and there's little notches in it right here, okay? So I'm gonna take this off.
Mopping pad.
What you're gonna do is get the little notches into this space. You can push a little bit on them from the backside and just get your cloth into it. What you wanna make sure you don't do is end up with some of the cloth on this part, okay? Because that part is actually Velcro. Got this through, and I'm gonna pull the mopping pad around the edges, and we're gonna get it onto as much of this as we can. Honestly, I'm struggling here. I imagine a lot of people are gonna struggle with this one. So there it is. That's about as good as I think I'm gonna be able to do here, but I can now attach the pad. The one problem is, with the way I've done this, the little notch might not go into the unit, so we'll try it.
Entering mopping mode.
Nope, come back.
Entering mopping mode.
There we go. Now I'm gonna put the sticker back on, because you don't want these to dry out. They are something that will dry out. And now you have this. So I'm gonna send it out to mop in the little area, and we'll see how it looks. Let's just do this room. And I'm gonna send it. It changed to mop. So now it's very, very quiet. I'm not sure it's getting really any of the ground wet at all. I did get it to avoid that. So I set my no-go zone very well. You can get it to do that. It is touching the edge of my carpet, but that's pretty good. Is there any wetness on the floor? There, I can see a little bit, and I'm definitely not getting a lot of mopping done here. So at this point, we haven't gotten around this room even once. And I would say that no mopping is occurring. Unfortunately, this wipe system, just to me, it just doesn't work.
Break.
Yeah, take a break. Let's find out. It's getting some things up for sure. And this is still a little wet, but that's about it, guys. So I think I got 50 to 100 square feet done, and this mopping pad's done. You're supposed to get a little more, I believe, but that's not a huge number. My robot vacuum just finished things, and this is one of the neat little things about the unit. Here's your cleaning report. It'll tell you how much it's done, how many cleans, and the total vacuuming time. You can see that weekly, monthly, and you can see area or time, how much it's been cleaning. And then you can review the different cleans that have gone on, and you can see the path that it took. So you get all the details in here, how much area was cleaned, how much cleaning time, and if you'd like, you can hit that little button and get a cleaning animation. So that's kind of a neat little thing that you can then save to your phone. Might be really helpful for getting some support from SwitchBot if you need it. There are also voice packages, so you can change how your little robot vacuum sounds. You can listen to these different ones, and then you can hit download to send them to your unit. There is a remote control mode. So now I can drive the unit around and I can actually clean as I go. So interesting stuff. You can rotate, you can drive forward. You can see the little unit doing it. It's pretty fun, actually. He's way over there. Go robot, go robot, go. One of the most important aspects of your robot vacuum are the accessory lifespans. So you do have to replace the things that you're seeing here on the screen, and they are telling you an estimated lifespan. Plus, then they show you kind of how you get it out of there when you need to make an adjustment, and then you can hit the reset timer. So I just changed it from standard mode here. So I'm just gonna change it to quiet mode. Yeah, now we're into the 60s in terms of noise. So not a lot of noise there. Let's go up to max. Even at its max, it's about 70, 72 decibels. Nothing terrible there. So in general, as I measure this, and now my sound meter's hearing my voice, but 65 to tops 70 decibels, even just a foot away. With SwitchBot and the K10 Pro here, you have a lot of options for integrations. Now this is a Wi-Fi product, so it's going to connect to your home's Wi-Fi. But because SwitchBot has a whole ecosystem of products, it does help to have their hub. Now I'm going to recommend the Hub 2. That's my favorite hub from them. And one of the reasons for that is because of what's called Matter. Matter is going to allow you to connect this unit to things like Apple HomeKit as they get robot vacuums into that system. Today, without a hub, you can still connect this to quite a few things, and you'd be able to turn on and off the Pro, plus set the different suction levels in apps like Amazon. Now in Google Home, you can send the unit back for recharging. You can start and pause the unit too. You also have Siri shortcuts, which actually gives you a lot of different features. And then you have Samsung SmartThings and If This Then That, with both platforms having some of those basics too. Now, once you've used Matter though, you're gonna have local connectivity between many different platforms. So let me show you how to set this up and how it works. I'm gonna get this mini robot vacuum into Apple HomeKit. And the way to do that is to have a hub in your home. So while this is a Wi-Fi product, and you would normally think that you'd head into the device's settings, and then, in here is where you would connect it to something like Apple HomeKit. That's actually not the case. You can see instructions, Amazon, Google, Samsung SmartThings, If This Then That, those platforms, you can connect directly using just the Wi-Fi on that system and the instructions inside of these. But with Matter, it's a little bit different. You actually have to have this hub in the home. This is a Hub 2. It's my recommendation for getting Matter working correctly in your home. Now, you go into the detailed settings for that hub, and down here it says Matter Setup. If you've already set it up in a Matter Ready application, then you're gonna have a bit of a different screen here, but I kind of blew that all away so we could start fresh. Now we're gonna tap on Matter Setup, and this information is gonna kind of tell you, hey, this is you getting it set up with Google Home. But we're not actually going to get it set up with Google Home. We need to reset this. So we have to press and hold the on and off buttons on the device panel for 15 seconds until all the lights go out. Then we have to wait for the panel lights to come back on, and this little indicator light starts to slowly flash. Before I do that, I'm just going to show you, this is the code you're going to copy in the next part of the process. So I'm going to hit these two buttons and start holding it. Last time I did this, it didn't fully shut off. So I think the process has changed a little bit. And there it goes. I think that's what we need. So now I'm going to hit next, and I'm just going to keep that number up on my screen. So over here now in Apple HomeKit, we're going to use that number. So I'm going to hit Add Accessory. I could do more options here because we don't have a code to scan. Luckily, it found my hub too. If it doesn't, you can hit my accessory isn't shown here and you can type in that code. So now it's trying to make a connection between these two, and it knows it's what's called a matter bridge. So this is a really important component. If your application does not support matter bridges, then this process will not work. Okay, it's asking me where I want to place this bridge. I'm going to hit matter. I have a room called matter, and then I'm going to name it hub 2. Now, we're going to hit done, and that will bring in a number of matter devices. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to this here, and I'm going to exit, and I'm going to come back into matter setup. And now what I have to do is add secondary devices. So I can add the mini robot K10 Plus Pro. I have a second one that's upstairs in my home, so I can add both of those. And I can add up to 8 products with this right now. So if I want my curtains and all these other things, these are all ready to be used. I can add things like temperature and humidity. But for now, we're just looking at what this does. So I'm going to hit back, and you can see I've added 2 secondary devices. So I'm in the matter room, and I found this to be fairly common with Apple HomeKit. So it doesn't actually say the name of the accessory that I've added. Not the best thing. You could give it some time here, but this is what I've found with the integration into Apple HomeKit for these kinds of things. But if I just now go and say, it's my vacuum, and I can display it as an outlet right now. In the future, this is going to come in as a robot vacuum. Apple has added vacuums into HomeKit here in the latest version. So you're going to be able to get the proper things in here. But for now, that's what we have. So now because I have it, I can hit that right there. And I can hear it starting the clean right now. So this situation will just get better and better, but now I can turn on and off my vacuum from Apple HomeKit. Now that I have done the work here to get this vacuum working in Apple HomeKit, I can use automations if I'd like to turn it on and off, but I can also further push the bridge out to other platforms. So what I can do is I can turn on pairing mode, and now I just keep that up and I'll go to my other app, or I could copy, but here's Homey, for example. I'm going to hit add a new device, and we're going to add a matter device. And now I'm going to type in that code. Then I'm just hitting connect, and now it's trying to pair these 2 platforms. Now we're going to continue the setup process here, and it's showing it as a hub 2, but we know better than that. So I've renamed and changed the icons for both of these, and I'm going to hit next and finish. And now we have additional options for turning on those devices. I've also placed them into specific rooms. So here in my living room, I have my vacuum, and I can go into that and I can start it up. The Pro makes some nice upgrades over the Plus model, and those improvements are important for this to become something that I think people can use in their homes. There are some gotchas that you saw in our video today, so those situations are things you're going to want to avoid, but the good news is SwitchBot makes their app pretty easy to eliminate those things, and they do make a lot of improvements over time. So this is something you can use in your home if you're looking for a mid-range unit, or you're just looking for something to get into lots of those little tight spaces. And I think that's the big win here for SwitchBot, as people with smaller spaces will get bigger worth out of this little guy. So check all the links out below. Otherwise, thanks for watching today, and of course, live smart.